Everyone holds a unique perspective in the story that is this world. Some people have fairly simple and wholesome tales to tell, while others have dark mysteries that create a deeply tragic origin. And there is no easy way to tell, by looks alone, what stories people hold. In the cities, the drug addict with eyes a little too bright, teeth a little too sharp, may have information vital to the story of Bikron as a whole. This is the story that we're telling today, the story of Squash, a small halfling boy struggling to be accepted by his peers and dreaming of valiant heroes. The question is, will he know how important his own tale is and with whom he should share it? Welcome to the third backstory of the Lucky Die. So, we get to welcome Squash into the Lucky Die. Who are you? Voice of Squash?
I'm Eyþór Viðarsson. I'm lucky enough to get to play on the Lucky Die as Squash the Halfling.
The scene opens on a valley. This valley is probably the most beautiful place in all of Discora. When you stand high up on one of its very secret hidden entrances, you can see the entirety of the valley below you. On the right-hand side, you can see that there are tall mountains and a waterfall flowing down, which cuts across the valley floor itself. You can also see on the other side that there are various trees, cherry blossoms, pines, you name it. There's a whole variety of trees. On the ground itself, you can see that there are fields, meadows. There are plants, crops growing here. There you can see children running around on the streets. And you can see a lot of small buildings constructed of stone or wooden. The wooden ones tend to be propped up high, so when it floods, it doesn't destroy the houses. And from this point of view, we can see that the sun is rising, and this golden light lights up the entire valley. And as we push in closer into the center, we find that there is a small halfling boy sitting alone, away from the others, reading a book. What do you look like?
Squash the Halfling. He is a small child, a small halfling. He currently has his black hair back in a ponytail, but his most striking feature is his elongated face. His face looks unnatural to the first look. His nose seems to be crushed and broken into a weird little mangle. And whenever he's opens his mouth, you can instantly see that his teeth are off. They're like kind of dagger-like or needle-like, if you please. He also has a very bad burn scar down the left side of his face. It kind of traces from his temple down to his chin.
Yes. And we find him this morning reading the end of a book. What's the book?
He's reading the book Prince Killian and the End of the Evil Sorceress. He was lended this book by a wizard who travels to the town regularly.
Yes.
He is reading
indeed.
He's reading it outside, even though he knows he shouldn't, because if certain people would catch him with a book, they would most likely destroy it.
Yes, unfortunately, in this kind of very secluded place called Empty Shallows, the other children here are not so receptive to you. You are quite often picked on, beaten, bullied. And it is exactly the reason that your parents, the cause of the reason of these beatings, is the reason that your parents have given over almost everything they own to a wizard. And he comes now and then, attempts to cure you. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. The last round was better. much, much better. You're no longer transforming as you used to. You're kind of beginning to gain some control. And as you finish reading the last of Prince Killian and the end of the Evil Sorcerer, a very tall shadow covers your book. You can feel yourself in darkness despite the sun of the morning.
Squash looks up nervously, fearing that it might be one of his many bullies.
That's not the case today. The person standing above you is a half-elf. He is old, he is very tall, he has long white hair, clean-shaven, has deep brown, almost black eyes, and he's wearing his traditional robes, a backpack, side bag, and he's wearing a small onyx pendant. He looks down at you and he smiles.
Squash jumps to his feet, slamming the book closed. Dayton, what are you doing here? You weren't supposed to come back for many weeks.
And he bends down, he picks you up, being as small as you are. That's so adorable.
Yes, well, I've arrived a little early, but there is actually something I'd like to speak to you and your parents about. If you don't mind, of course.
Yes, they are back home. They didn't need to go work the field today.
Excellent. Well, have you been reading that book?
Yes.
And he looks down at the ground.
The one you've just so heartlessly thrown aside?
And he puts you back down on the ground.
Squash picks up the book, which is almost the size of his torso, and carries it like cross arms across it and like starts running after Dayton. Or walks to his side.
He puts Dayton puts his hand out. He has to like kind of like lean down a little bit, but he takes your little hand in his, and he walks you to where he obviously knows where your parents are. The house of your parents is up on stilts. It's made of wood. It's recently flooded, but the water itself has begun to recede. And you fairly adept to avoiding all this water on the ground. Him, not quite so much. And he struggles up into the halfling sized house, which he has to essentially get down on all fours down properly to actually get in through this very, very low door. And he smiles. He greets your parents warmly. They offer the usual refreshments. And he turns to you and says,
Well, actually, I have a bit of a mission for you, young man. How would you like to travel with me when we're about to go find a relic, an artifact, which in the right hands could potentially save the world, and in the wrong hands will burn it to ashes? Do you think this is an adventure you'd like to come on, young man?
Squash is wide-eyed at this and like takes a half a second before he blows up. Yes, to help you, Jayton, I would do anything.
Your mother's like, I don't think that would be a particularly good idea. I mean, you're not cured yet, son, and you're only little.
Mom, Dayton thinks I can help. I could do anything. If I could help him, maybe he can help me more.
Roll a persuasion check on your own mother.
Got a 17 on the dice, dude. It's over. It's over for Mom. Let me see. Character.
She looks up at your father, and he looks back at you, and he's like, "Well, son, if you're going to go and be an adventurer, I guess we better get you kitted up a little bit. Can't have you going out there wearing that." And he indicates your street clothes. Hang on, let's see what we've got in the old bags here. And he goes to the chest, and your mother begins to like pack you up a small bag as she turns to Dayton. She's like, I assume he's going to be going with you now. I mean, not right now. And Dayton turns back to her and to you and says,
Well, yes, this is very, very important. I thought your son could be of great use to me. You see, I need someone of his stature, his height. There are places I am just simply too tall to enter.
You are really tall, that is right. Dad, can I have the knife?
Your dad like turns and looks at you like, knife? No, you can't have a knife.
But I need to defend myself. What if the ever-present threat attacks us?
You see them glance at Dacian, and you just see Dacian almost like lazily like clean his fingernails, and you see a very small like purplish glow around his hands. And he says,
Of course, I'd make sure your son is not actually in any real danger. His help in this is actually invaluable. I'd make sure he'd come back to you whole and healthy.
Hear that, Mom? I'm invaluable.
well, at least we could say, have dinner with us. At least we can do for everything you've done. And Dacian nods, and he settles in and speaks to your parents about the grand adventure he thinks you're about to have. Do you stay and listen? Do you prepare yourself? Do you go off and tell your non-existent friends about it?
Oh yeah, I go tell the drawing I hid in the closet about my adventures.
I'm gonna need this explained. A drawing in your closet about your adventures. Go.
So I have a tiny little curtain that is my room. And in my room, there's a tiny little closet area. And in the closet area, I have taken coal and drawn a picture of another halfling child, which I call my friend. He is my best friend, and I tell him all my secrets.
What's his name?
I'm going to call him Osmark.
Osmark. Cool. I like it.
All right, so I go tell the drawing in my closet, which I call Osmark. Osmark,
okay.
I'm going on an adventure, and I'm going to help Dacian, and I'm going to find an artifact, and we're going to save the world. It's going to be great. I'll tell you all about it when I get back. Sposk picks up some traveling clothes from the closet and runs it back into the living room, the dining room.
You speak to your friend. You collect all your things together. Your father puts together what you think was probably his old guard uniform. You knew that when he lived in the village that was close by to Empty Shallows, that he used to be a guard of sorts. Doesn't need to do that here so much. The place is too well secluded. The people were tribe themselves too well internally policed, shall we say. There's no need for it. But it's a little large on you, but it should do the job. He packs all these things in for you. Your mother packs you a nice quantity of supplies, food, waters, that kind of good stuff. A couple of extra blankets, the way the mums do. She makes sure that you put on the biggest, most patched, most comfortable cloak that either of them own. It's ridiculously too big on you, and you kind of have to turn it up a little bit on the ground. But you are ready for your adventure. Are you going to attempt to sneak a knife from your father?
No, I think I trust Dacian enough to take care of me. I think that when Dacian said he'd take care of me and showed me a little bit of magic, I was just like, oh, knives are just jokes to him. I've seen him blow things up. So
that is very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. In your past, you have seen Dacian fight with the ever-present threats here. When a couple of the Infernals roamed into Empty Shallows, he just happened to be here at the same time. Mm. You have indeed seen him perform feats of great magic, at least in your childish eyes. You set off very late at night. Is there anything you wish to say to anyone before you leave? Before
I leave, I'm assuming that I am now holding on to Dacian's cloak instead of him leaning down and holding my hand. I'm assuming that's
we can go with that. Yeah.
And I tell my mom, I hug her I'm gonna go save the world, Mom. It's gonna be great. And I hug her, and then I'm gonna go hug my dad, and he just grabs me in a headlock and go save the world, buddy. And yes, indeed. You go to your father. He picks you up. He tussles your hair, and it's you're gonna be a fine adventurer. You're going to be a great hero who saves the world, not burns it down. Right, young man? No, I don't play with fire anymore, Dad. You told me not to. It's my boy. And he kind of gives you a little bit, not like a very gentle head noogie. He puts you back down. Dad! Your mum can't help it. She grabs you again and she gives you a very big hug. The point where she hugs you just under the arms so that your arms kind of squeak up a little bit. You kind of you just can't help but squeak when she gives you a really big hug. You just can't help it. And she lets you go with tears in her eyes and she's like,
You be a good boy now. You do whatever that Dacian wizard man tells you to do. You come home safe to us, you understand?
Of course, Mom. I'll come straight away home and I'll tell you everything. It's gonna be amazing. Amazing.
You do that. Don't you forget about your parents when you become a very big, brave adventurer and a hero.
No, you guys can come on adventures with me too when I get good.
Take a insight at disadvantage because you're 12 years old and don't quite pick up on nuances.
That's a natural one.
Yeah, you completely missed the look between your father and your mother.
Crap.
And the look that they share with Dacian. But you take your stuff, happy as you can be, and you grab onto Dacian's cloak, and the pair of you leave the valley. As you look back, you can see the sun is setting. Dacian has no worries or qualms apparently about travelling in the dark. You look back and you watch the sun setting. You see the kind of orange glow, the orange and pinkish glow, just as it perfectly sets off against the fields, the children running around, the babbling river. And that's the last you see of Empty Shallows. And you two leave. It takes you the other side of 6 weeks. You are taken across rivers, across mountains. You visit a few little places here and there. You see whenever the ever-present threats turn up, Dacian performs some sort of magic and you almost disappear into nothingness. You walk in a place that's kind of sepia-toned, but he tells you not to panic about the things you see, and I assume you trust him.
I do.
Good. He walks you through this sepia-toned world, so you think. Every now and then, every time these threats appear, he keeps you safe. You feel safe. He keeps you fed. He keeps you warm. He teaches you small magic tricks that may or may not pass over your head.
I have no idea what he's doing. I'm just like, I try my absolute best, but it's not happening.
He is very calm and very patient with you. He tries with you every night to master something he calls prestidigitation, but you kind of can't really grasp the concept. But when he brings out a small dagger, this is something you kind of, I think, have better luck at. And he shows you some very neat knife tricks, he starts off juggling with them. And he teaches this skill to you.
All right.
After a while, after probably about a couple of weeks, he lets you have the knives. And he says,
There are times, my boy, I think you might need these. You are not proficient with magic. And if you might need these, then you should have them. I trust you to make the right decisions with them.
Are you sure? Dad never let me have the knives.
Well, your father is not here in the real world, but we are. And I was not lying. The place we are going to is very dangerous, and I do need your help.
Okay, yes, I'll take the knives. And he takes the knives and stashes them in his cloak. There are like little, things that can hold them in the cloak.
Yeah, I mean, this cloak has already begun to be patched. Where it's been turned up at the bottom, that creates a nice, very large, long kind of a pocket, so to speak. But there are a couple of internal patches, a couple external. You could definitely store them in your cloak should you wish. You can also put them on your hip. He does give you a holster of sorts for them if you want them.
Oh, then
it's entirely up to you.
Then I definitely put them on my hip.
Okay. You have in your possession 2 daggers.
Ooh.
When you hit about 6 weeks, you've become tougher, stronger. Life on the road has thickened your skin a little bit. Whenever you enter small towns and cities, he's very good at protecting you from the stares of people. You are, as you've mentioned, horribly disfigured. You are a small boy covered in scars, face broken, smashed in. But he seems to protect you from all this. People give you a look. He steps in front of you and they immediately back off. You don't know what they're seeing, but they do it. And quite often, you find yourself the recipient of decent food, decent drink, and he'll always make sure that you get fed and watered first, that you are always looked after. He seems worried on some occasions that you aren't eating enough, that you aren't looking after yourself. On other occasions, he just seems worried about your well-being. He is a good friend. Is there anything you'd like to ask, say, or do at one of these stops? They are frequent.
I think at some point somebody steps on the cloak because it's a little bit too big for me. And the pins that keep it on my shirt snaps. And Daijin, I don't know how magic works exactly in your world, so either he conjures up or buys a new pin for me, which is a little bit different than the other pin. So I've got like this asymmetry to my cloak.
All right, we can roll with that. Yeah, you're in a very busy city right near the edge of the desert. You know the desert is called Draenith. Daichin has told you as much. He's been trying to teach you about the places you travel to as you get there. A bit about the histories too. This particular place is called Kazakh. C-U-Z-A-K. This little village this city is filled with humans. This city is teeming with them. You don't see many other races here. You don't see any half-elves. You don't see any halflings. You don't see any gnomes. Not that that's particularly unusual. But every time you walk through the cities, you feel people almost deliberately knocking into you, your small height, like, oh, I'm awfully sorry, I didn't see you there, or, move, you little squishling.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I want you to look where you're going. And you see him aim this human with long, dark, scraggly hair, just kind of like offhandedly aim a kick at you, but he kind of misses and puts your foot down on your cloak.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm assuming the cloak gets caught and the pin snaps and Squash like falls back on his butt. Daijin, one second. And he stands up and the cloak starts like dragging behind him and he's like holding on to Daijin, please, 1 second.
You see Daichin's shadow fall across the man and he looks up and the man doesn't seem to be moving all that much. He seems to be almost frozen in place. And then you feel that charge of electricity, that charge of there's magic in the air, the one that kind of like prickles all the senses just at the very edge of them. And you see the man run as if he has seen the worst fears, as if he's seen death itself. And he runs in the opposite direction. And Daichin drops down to one knee and roughly your height again now. And he puts you back on your feet and picks you up. It's like,
are you all right there, young man?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. He just accidentally stepped on my cloak. I think he broke the pin, though.
Oh, no.
And he picks up the cloak and looks at it. It's definitely torn. The pin is nowhere to be seen now. And you see him wave his hands over. You hear him whisper something. You see a slight glow. And the cloak itself is repaired. The tear in it now sealed over, but the pin is gone. And he ties it around you.
Oh, don't you worry there, young chap. We'll figure something out. Make sure you always just get back on your feet.
Yeah.
He helps you back to your feet. He takes your little hand in his this time round. And he takes you to an inn. And when you wake up in the morning, on your pillowcase, just in front of you, there is a small onyx pin.
Ooh. Black. I like it.
It's the same material, the same color as the pendant that he wears.
Oh. He like grabs it with both hands and is like just staring at it, just wild-eyed, like, but no. And he gets up and runs to his cloak and throws it on and sticks the pin in and like goes in, like he's about to run out to find a lake to look at himself in. When he's just like,
take a there would be like little mirrors, little pools of something reflective you can look at yourself in. Roll an investigation at disadvantage only because your age and the fact you haven't been you aren't in like the murky underworld yet. So roll investigation at a disadvantage.
All right. You bastard. So 12.
You know that this level of craftsmanship is beyond anything you've ever seen in Empty Shallows, beyond anything you've actually seen in your very brief experience of the outside world. You know that this kind of material as Dacian has told you, is very good at holding magic. And it's very...
Oh, he's just
very
ecstatic
expensive.
about this. He's got a thing like Dacian. He's got like a pin, like a Dacian's necklace. People are going to talk about the black pin. It's going to be so cool.
You guys carry on into the desert. This pit stop, so to speak, was his way of resupplying. He has a lot of water skins with him. He has bought desert-appropriate gear for you. So though you have your cloak, you now have a hood to go with it. You have plenty of places to hang water, to find water should you need it. He is prepped. You are prepped. And as you walk into the desert proper, he looks down at you. And he seems to be coming to some sort of decision. You can see a grim set in his jaw that you've never quite seen before. And he says,
Now, are you quite sure, little one, that you really want to do this?
Of course. We need to save the world. We need to keep the bad guys from getting the artifact.
We do. Well then, you and I are a partnership. There are things that you can do that I cannot, and places that you can go that I cannot.
What kind of places can I go that you can't?
Well, places that are very difficult for me to get into. You are, of course, much, much smaller than I am. You see, I've been here before. I think I know where it is. I can sense its magic, but I simply just can't get to it.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I can do that.
I know roughly where it is, but I don't know exactly where it is. You and I are going to have to find it, and I don't know what is beyond the entrances.
and he indicates the desert. You can see off in the far distance that it appears to be making some sort of very deep trench just much further off in your distance. A good, like, a couple of hours walk from where you are.
There are entrances there that are simply too small for me to check, and I don't know the dangers that lie beyond them. You may have to go in alone.
It's okay. I'm very good at staying out of trouble.
He bends down to one knee and he puts his hand on your face, the side that's been burnt.
But you're not always quick enough, are you, I'm afraid? I am sorry, I can't help you with that.
It's my fault. I was being stupid. It's my fault. He tries to force a smile, but there's obviously pain in his smile.
Sometimes, my lad, it is sometimes wiser to not cause waves, but sometimes you do need to stand and fight, young man. And this will be one of those times. We are going to have to stand and fight. And do you know anything about this desert?
And he stands up and continues walking in the direction of where you saw this trench that he was indicating.
I think in one of your books, it talked about a really, 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 really big desert. And it was called the Desert of Drenith.
Yes.
And
yes.
The desert is really big and really hot. And it's there was like a city.
There was a city here many thousands of years ago. The city was called Drenith. We call it the Lost City Drenith now because, well, we cannot find it. And it is where I expect this item to be. Many powerful objects were hidden there. Do you know much about religion? I don't know if your tribe follows any gods or practices.
No, we don't pray to the gods. The gods left us to the fate of Weretism, so we just help each other.
Well, many thousands of years ago, there was a man, a human, they say. It was rumored that he could see the future and that he had obtained a lot of knowledge. And it is apparently somewhere in this trench that he ascended to godhood. He is the god of knowledge and foresight. He is the god called Savras.
Do I know that name?
I'm going to go with no.
Then Squash just looks at him kind of lost, like, a man became a god?
Yes, He saw things and knew things, and he was a very spiritual man. They said that he left behind something, a piece of himself. But the city was lost at about the same time. The clerics outside the city sensed another god in the, the Sentinel Plain. Yes, that's it. The city he was in just froze and has become lost to time. That is, until you and I, well, we are going to find it, my boy.
Squash puffs out his chest when he says that. Okay, so what do we need to do?
Yes, the plan. The plan is we need to find the entrance. We need to hope that I am not too big to get through. At the very least, however, you will go in. You will get the item, and then you will bring it back to me. I will cover and protect you with magical boons the best I am able, but ultimately this may come down to you.
I can do it.
I know you can.
And he kind of like bends down, like tassels your hair a little bit.
D10.
Take a perception check for me.
13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As you two walk this desert, it does in fact take you a couple of hours to get to where you see this trench. This trench is hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. It's so deep that the bottom is dark despite the sun beating overhead. It doesn't mean that it provides you with any shelter from the cloying heat, but it is at least more able to see without being blinded by the sun reflecting off of the sand. As you're walking through this trench, you see that the sides are, as you expect a trench in the middle of the desert to be. They are rock, they are rough. Sometimes some areas of it are smooth, worn by sandstorms. Others are broken shelves, as if pieces of rock have just slipped to the ground. You can see from where you are movement behind some of these fallen, broken rocks. There's no water here. There's no plants here. You can just feel the shifting of some sand animals like various snakes, a couple of little insects, that sort of thing. You see movement behind some of these rocks in some places. As you look around, somewhat closer to Dacian than normal, even he seems a little unnerved. You see that there are shelves high and low throughout the hundreds of feet of this rock wall as you walk down this trench.
Did all the gods used to be humans?
No, but there are others. I believe Torm may have started off human as well, but I'm not entirely sure on that. The others, Tyr, Ilmater, Tempest, and so on, they were just gods. They were just there, in existence. Not just humans ascended, of course. I believe tieflings, maybe a dwarf as well. I'm not entirely sure.
Have any halflings become gods?
Yes, I believe that may be the case.
Really?
I believe at least one of them, yes. Every new god that appears makes the Sentinel Plain reach a fuller, stronger, more threaded...
Do you think they care about the were-rat people?
I don't know. Perhaps if you don't pray to them, they don't hear you. Or maybe they simply don't care. I don't really have an answer for you. But then again, the inner working of the gods is not really in my realm of expertise.
Squash is like staring ahead, really concentrating on this information.
Take a perception check.
26.
Oh, damn!
19.
How?
I have a +7 if I get to keep my proficiency bonus.
Proficiency, yes, you do. God damn.
You silly Billy.
Why did I ever say yes to this sort of shit?
I got 19 on the die, so...
You sense it. You feel it before you see it. You feel the ground shaking, as if... And as you just stay still a moment and Dacian takes a step forward and you just stay stock still, you can feel it in the earth. You can feel a vibration of something very big moving the earth, heading towards you.
Dacian. I'm sorry?
No, you carry on.
Dejin,
Yes?
do you... What is that?
And as you say that, you point forward. He looks back to where you pointed, and you see this entity erupt from the earth. It now makes sense as why there's so much broken rock here. It hasn't fallen, it has been pushed up out of the ground. You see this large grey worm covered head to toe in dirt and debris that's falling, and as it kind of like rears forward, you can see into its mouth and its many rows of sharpened teeth, its tiny beady little eyes, all 8 of them staring down at you. And it just lets out this tremendous roar.
Squash starts backing up and is like fumbling for the daggers he was given.
Dachin runs over to you, and he doesn't waste any time. He just picks you up off the ground, and he begins to run. You being held up, you can see over his shoulder, and you can see to the sides of you. I'm going to let you roll the 26.
Okay.
Because it's interesting.
Okay.
You see a couple of openings. You see, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of shelves which you could go up onto. You can see that some of them lead into caves, some of them don't. There are some caves at ground level. In your immediate vicinity, you see 2 on the left and 1 on the right. The one on the right is a platform that's slightly higher up. The ones on the left are slightly more exposed, but they are at ground level. What do you want to do?
Squash points to the left caves and shouts, "In there! It can't eat real rock, can it?"
He bolts into the nearest left hand, and he runs into this cave. And as you look out, as he turns around and you turn your head to look at the entrance, you see this large entity just like rush past you. And then you see its body slow and move slightly and change direction as you realize it's coming towards you. Its mouth is larger than the entrance, but you see its teeth digging into the side of the wall, and you see the rocks crumble in front of you as the room gets plunged into darkness. Do you have dark vision?
Nope, nothing like that.
The room is plunged into utter darkness, and you feel Dachin turning and running as you feel the rocks behind you begin to be shifted and moved and eaten. You feel it chasing behind you, and it is making a very good speed.
Ooh, Squash is like, he can feel... is he still carrying me, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, Squash is just terrified. That's all he's doing.
Oh, little Squash.
Dachin, it's following us.
I'm well aware. Hang on.
And he grips you very, very tightly in one arm as you feel the other arm shift away, and you kind of like struggle a little bit to hold on as he kind of like lets go one of your main supports. But you manage to like grip on tightly. I mean, you're about to die if you don't. And you feel his other arm move around, and you see a small light appear. The light appears on his necklace as it does appear on your pin. You can now see the rows and rows of teeth as this dark grey worm makes its way towards you. Are you looking at it? Are you closing your eyes, or are you looking forward?
Oh, Squash like sees the row of the teeth, and like he unconsciously starts to try to count them, and then he just squashes his eyes together, like what's it called when you like? There's a word for it. He's just forcefully holding his eyes together. Yeah.
God, I want to say squinting, but that's definitely not the right word.
No. Like he's forcing his eyes together, and he's like his whole face is contorted with
scrunching your eyes.
There we go.
That's the word I'm going to go with. I can't remember if it's exactly the right word. I know what you're aiming for, but scrunching is the word we're using this. And if anyone has a problem, they can come and talk to me about it. Right. You scrunch your eyes up, and you feel yourself just running forward through these tunnels. And as he's running, you can hear sometimes that either side of you changes. You can hear like as he's passing like a turning or a tunnel or something. And you begin to sense that he's beginning to slow down. He's beginning to feel a little bit weaker, carrying you and running and maintaining concentration on whatever it is that he appears to be doing. He's muttering quietly under his breath. Do you know any other languages?
I know Common and Halfling, that's it.
Nope, you don't know what he's talking about.
Oh boy.
He gives you a bit of a shake as you realize that he's actually slipped into another language trying to talk to you. Maybe his mother tongue. It's very musical in nature. Very, very musical in nature. Take an intellect check for me.
16 plus 3, so that's a 19.
It's not Elven. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Elven language is very beautiful, but this has a completely different layer to it. This is something... Yeah, this is something completely different, and held in his arms right now, you don't know. And he shakes you again and switches back into common. And he says,
Little one, I'm going to need you to look forward, not backwards. Yeah, you need to look forward right now.
Okay. And he forcefully turns his body around and opens his eyes.
Yeah. As you kind of begin to turn around, you open your eyes, you realize how close this kind of grey worm has gotten. It's maybe 3 or 4 steps. Dachin is only 3 or 4 steps ahead. And you hear Dachin panting, and he's like,
I can do some sort of spell, but I'm going to need you to find somewhere to stop, to hold up.
Okay.
I can't do that and maintain the spell.
Okay. And Squash is going to start staring for places, little crevices or something that they can, slip into.
Take a perception at disadvantage.
Oh, that was a natural 20 and 11. So that's 18.
Oh, but that's good enough. God damn you and your perception. As he is running forward, you realize that he's created this kind of bubble around you both. And it's distorted your vision, but only very, very slightly. And as he's running forward, you notice that as you look around left and right, these tunnels seem to be branching off but into dead ends. And then your little child eyes just look up. And up ahead, you see that there is an opening in the rock above you. And if you kind of squint yourself down a little bit, you get a better view as you're running towards it. There is actually a small shelf up there. And that small shelf leads into another cave system.
Up there, Dachin! Up there! There's a place we can crawl into!
As you do that, he looks back, he looks at you, he looks up, and he makes the only decision that he can. And as you run under there, as he runs, he throws you up onto the shelf.
Okay. Squash is gonna freak out for the first second, but then he's gonna remember sometimes you need to fight and sometimes you need to run away, and this is the time to fight. So he tries to grapple onto the ledge.
Good man. I need you to make a... Oh, man. I don't know if I should make you roll or make me roll. No, fuck it. You roll because it's funnier. I need you to make either an athletics, an acrobatics, or a strength saving throw.
Oh,
I will let you argue which one you want and why.
All right. So I'm going to say that when he tosses Squash up, he gives him good air, but his back starts falling. He's off kilter, I think is the phrase. And Squash is going to grab one of the knives and throw it behind him to try to level out his tilt. So he can get a much easier grab onto the shelf.
Uh-huh.
How stupid is that?
That's hilarious. So what are you arguing for?
Acrobatics, always, forever.
Yes, you may. 100% you may roll that. It's just too adorable.
All right. I have 5 dex plus 12, so 17.
Absolutely. As you go up, you realize that you're not going to quite make it unless you do something. You throw a dagger behind you, and that very small change in your center of gravity puts you at the point where you can just land very heavily on this platform as you see this grey worm just streak below you, and you hear Dachin running through. You're not in darkness. You have the pin, which is light. What do you want to do up there? Below you, you can see this dark worm crunching and chewing its way through. You are high enough up that its chewing ways are not affecting you, but you can definitely feel the platform you're on. Sort of the odd crack is appearing in it. It's not great. Behind you, there is what looks like a you can kind of like looking from side to side, thinking about it and seeing what you saw ahead as you were being thrown up here. It kind of almost runs parallel with the top of this shaft below you.
Squash, like trembling, gets to his feet, and you can feel how the platform he's standing on is like it has tremors in it, and he can hear like rock and sand move all around him, and he gets this just like, oh no, this is not safe. This is not safe. He's mumbling to himself. Need to, not going down there. So, and he turns around and he starts going into the tunnel. I'm gonna find Teijin. It's gonna be fine. He can use magic. He's gonna save himself. He's gonna blow up the worm with that spell I saw him use. It's a big spell. And one day I'm gonna cast a big spell and I'm gonna blow up worms. And he's just mumbling as he's walking in this tunnel.
Yeah. Is he walking? Is he running?
Oh, he doesn't need to be like all crouched up?
No, this is fine for him. He is but a 12-year-old halfling. He is quite tiny.
All right, then he's what's it called? Like jogging, like
yeah.
Like not full breath sprinting, because then he couldn't mumble to himself, and the mumbling is doing a lot for him right now.
He needs to speak out loud right now, does he? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so he is running along this very small tunnel. And you see other tunnels leading into this, but you manage to keep following the sound of this rumbling. And you probably run for a good 5 minutes. The rumbling is getting quieter. It's gone off in a slightly different direction, but you've gone down this tunnel for quite a distance now. Turning side to side isn't... there are no more tunnels that lead into this one. But you've gone quite a distance now, and the sound is definitely far off to one side. Up ahead, you see there is a small glow.
All right. He's going to hesitantly move towards the glow. At this point, he's moving slower, like walking speed.
Okay. You walk towards this glow. It's quite far, but you make your way there. And as you get closer and closer, you see a couple of other tunnels actually branching back into this one too. There seems to be a network around this area. And as you hit the end, you realise it's opened out into this cavern. This cavern is huge. You look down and you can see that there are actually small, crudely constructed homes. There are homes carved into the edges of this cavern. This cavern is very high, it's very deep, it's very wide. There are hundreds of houses here, and you see hundreds of people. You see hundreds of elves, gnomes, dwarves, halflings. You see creatures that are humanoid but covered in fur and seem to have long tails. You see other creatures that are covered, that seem to have horns and are brightly coloured reds or purples or even bright greens. You see that there are, not that you've ever seen one in real life, but you've definitely seen pictures of them. There are even half-orcs here. But the thing you really notice is it's deathly quiet. Nobody is moving.
Squash mumbles to himself. You could fit all of empty shallows in here. What is this place?
3, 4 times over, yes.
He's staring at any one of the people, and he's looking for like a sign of movement, whether it be breathing or hands moving or anything.
Take an investigation check for me.
Boo-boo. That's a 15 on the dice. Investigation. Yeah, it's a 22. Skill monkey.
Oh yes, it's 22. Yeah, I mean, jeez. You notice that they aren't breathing. They aren't moving. It's almost as if the air in here is frozen too. You see that, yes, on your investigation of 22, you would see this. You would see that almost as if someone has turned a fan on from a central point. Their hair is all pointing in one direction as if a fan has been turned on, but it's not moving. Like the strands of hair are just suspended in midair. You can see that some of them are doing some very mundane tasks. Some of them are just walking around covered in armour, clearly some sort of guard. Even their clothing seems to be rippled as if from a central point. You also notice on your 22 that there is there is one or two of them that seem to be standing stock still but aren't. They are little telltales, a little blink here and there. But they're off in the distance. You can't tell exactly what they are from here. But the more you look around, you more realise that amongst these hundreds of frozen people, there are a couple of these figures, these tall humanoid figures, that do seem to be breathing a little bit.
Squash is gonna take out his knife. What is the approach that I can take to the village?
Okay, so the village is below you.
Yes.
Probably maybe a 15-foot drop. As you look around this cavern, you can see that there are more openings, more holes at roughly the same height you are. Sort of. They're kind of all over the place. But now you're here, even your childish mind would think maybe this is to allow movement of air.
I'm horrible.
What did you have on your person?
What does Squash have on his person? That is a good question.
You could make an argument for something that would help.
At some point, Dajin bought Squash a bigger, better backpack and started making him carry his own bedroll, his own water and food, along with his clothes. And at some point, Dajin just absentmindedly attached a piece of rope to his backpack. As if just like, oh, we're going to need this, and we're going to need this. And he just added like stuff to his backpack.
Yeah, and I think we did discuss that he would be getting tougher, stronger. Part of that would be being forced to carry your own stuff. And yes, like every good adventurer, you should be carrying rope, which you are. So yes, you have like let's say you probably only have like 30 foot of rope, because like 50 foot is a lot for a small halfling child.
Yeah, Squash goes into his, takes off his backpack. All right. Squash is going to look around for something to either loop the rope around or through to tie it, like fasten it.
There's a couple of rocks you could use, yeah. You could fasten it to a nearby rock, or you could use a piton, which I think you get in a basic adventurer's kit or something. He bought you my first adventurer's kit. You have like some shitty pitons.
Yeah.
Or pitons, or whatever they're called. I don't know.
He's going to grab a python. He's going to grab like a little python, and he's going to nail it into the wall. And then he's going to tie the rope around it using a double grandma knot. Which is an awful, awful knot, but it's what children know.
You tie yourself a double grandma knot, you climb your way down.
Yes.
You are at ground level.
All right. Squash.
Carry on.
Squash is gonna, like, how close is he to any of the houses and people? Like, which is closer, people or houses?
People. You've kind of literally dropped into a street.
Okay. All right. Squash is gonna slowly move towards one of the persons that isn't breathing. And he's making like a conscious choice to stay away from those. Like if he sees them, he's going to try to get very, very well around them.
I will need you to make a stealth check.
So 11. What? What kind of a roll was that?
Excellent. Okay, so... I'm so happy right now. You rolled an 11. Okay, yeah. I will bear that in mind. You make your way over to one of these statue still ones. Let's say it is a blue-skinned tiefling. Appears to be female.
Squash is like moving like rather close to the person. He is so short that his eye should be at thigh level, maybe knee, because he's 14. Mm-hmm. And he's gonna reach out and like just gently touch the clothes that she's wearing. He's not trying to touch whatever's underneath, just the clothes.
As you put your hand out to touch the cloth is solid beneath your hands. It's not like the kind of thin Hessian cloth that she's wearing. It seems solid, as if you can't move it. You can't even affect the weave. You can't put a hole in it. You can't move its direction. Now you're this close, you notice that there is a symbol hanging around her neck. It's a small round circular disc with an eye carved into it. And as you look around, you notice that pretty much everyone here is wearing them.
Do I recognize this for something?
Absolutely not.
Okay. He's gonna look at the person's face. Do they look distraught, or do they just have a neutral facial expression?
You notice that they are kind of, they're walking opposite from the direction that it appears as if their clothing and their hair has been blown. And you see that their head is very, very slightly turned as if it's going to try and look at the direction that this came from. And they have a puzzled expression on their face. This seems to be the norm for most people, apart from a couple of people who seem to be, you can glance through windows, who just continuing about their everyday business.
Squash is gonna look to the direction that the billowing, the wind would have been coming from.
As you look out across, you can see now you're on a slightly different vantage. You can see that the ground dips down in the direction that they're looking, something you couldn't quite see from up on high. You notice that you can see a very bright light that seems to be coming from that area. It's lighting up most of this place. You see it more intently now. You're kind of down on the ground and you're looking in that direction. You can sort of see it bouncing off of like various surfaces. And you think you can see a leaf, like a tree, but you're not really close enough to be sure.
He's gonna start moving towards that tree. Like, did you say there was a tree there?
Yeah, you can see like over the tops of these buildings, obviously you being much, much closer to the ground. You can see over the top of like one of these taller buildings, especially where this light is coming from. You think you see what might be a tree, like the very, very top of a tree.
Squash is gonna start moving towards that tree as a guideline. He still keeps an eye out for any of the breathers.
Are you moving stealthily, or what are you trying to do?
I am. How many of the breathers are there? Are we talking about like it's almost impossible to get to the tree without passing very close to a breather, or?
You can definitely go around the ones you think are breathing.
Then
it's possible.
Then he is just gonna move relatively normally, but he's just making like great big spaces between him and breathers.
Okay. Take a perception check for me.
It's that -4. Are you kidding me?
What did you get?
I got a 9.
I will store that piece of information. I love Roll20 today. As you make your way past some of these breathers, you spot that most of these breathers they have long, long tails. Their heads are kind of more bulbous shaped. They're not like humanoid heads. And you notice at the corner of your eye, you think you see one of them lick its eye. You think. Can't be sure though.
Lick its eye?
Yep.
Nope. And he's gonna like try to like get as far away from the eye licker as he can.
Are you running? Are you stealthing? Are you what?
I think he runs. I think that freaked him out. Yeah, Squash is running.
All right. You run. You run towards where you think you see this tree. And as you pass one of these larger buildings and get a better look around it, you see before you a kind of clearing in the middle of this city. This clearing has 3 trees in it. There are 2 leafy trees, 2 green trees, and another one that is clearly dead, clearly barren. Its leaves have fallen off. It's just bark now. And in the center of these 3 trees, in the very, very center, you see what looks like the shape of a man, but it's kind of floating on the ground. You can see legs crossed. But the man is definitely not proportioned to a normal human. It's 4, 5, 6 times bigger. This is ginormous compared to you. And as you are running and bolting and making your way there, you hear the sounds of coming from all around you as you become aware that some of these breathers, as you call them, have begun to slowly turn their heads towards you. And you see their tongues like forking out. Just see that they slowly begin to make their way towards you as if coming out of a deep stupor.
Oh, good. Oh, this floating person. Oh, Squash doesn't know if he can trust the really big person. If he should climb a tree, he's arguing with options in his mind.
You aren't quite at the tree. You can't quite at the clearing. You are bolting towards it. The last I heard.
All right, he's gonna keep running towards the clearing. He's like basically deciding, like, yeah, whatever this clearing is better than those things.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I need you to make a athletics check for me, please.
Oh.
I'm going to say at advantage because I think you're running for your life.
Yeah.
No.
What?
Why?
And so ends the story of Squash.
Would you like to explain to those people, because we're an audio medium,
I'm sorry.
Just occurred?
So Squash gets an advantage, which means he rolls 2 d20. He has a +1 to his roll, and his highest number was 2. So he got a 3 on his athletics. So Squash starts running and instantly like missteps and falls, and all the air gets kicked out of him. And he's just lying on the ground, kind of winded, and he's trying to crawl back to his feet. He's trying to get back up. He's just, no, keep moving, gotta keep moving. He's just struggling to even breathe.
As you get back up onto your feet, you hear this sound getting so much closer. And as you turn and look back, you see one of these breather creatures is just steps from you. You see its long tongue reaching out, and you feel it almost kind of like just nip the back of your neck, and you feel it like a sudden burn, like a sudden hot sensation. And as you continue running forward, this creature pounces at you.
Oh, no. No! No!
Oh, no! Could this be the end for little Squash already? Oh, no! What's your armor class, little Squashling?
If Squash has 5 dexterity and he's wearing his father leather armor, he has 16 AC.
Well, that's an awful shame because it rolled a 17. I asked like you were going to have a choice in the matter. Okay. This creature reaches out with its claws and it slashes at your face. For 6 damage.
Oh,
you
boy.
feel 3 long claws just slash and claw at the side of your face, and you feel it cutting 3 times into your skin. It's definitely split open the flesh.
Squash just squeals out in pain. Just makes this awful, like, child scream. You know the one, the guttural one that just comes from the lungs. And Squash is gonna try to kick at the creature, like at its hands that have slashed him, and he's gonna try to crawl away and get up on his feet.
You are kind of back on your feet.
All right. Oh, okay. Then Squash is just.
You can just run.
I think Squash would run.
You can just run.
Yeah, he's running. This thing just slashed open his face. He's running. He's holding his cloak to his face where it's bleeding the worst, and he's just running. He's just running.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You run towards this clearing, and as your foot crosses over, kind of almost like a boundary, I guess, where you can see that the earth itself hasn't been blown. It's actually very settled. It's not been apparently too much affected by this kind of sudden whoosh that may have emanated from here. And as you cross over it, you see the creatures just ram against this invisible barrier as if they can't cross over it. And you see these creatures, there are probably nearly a dozen of them, just like and you see them tipping their head and looking at you, and you see that in the distance you can see a couple more of them almost moving out of the shadows heading towards this strange disturbance. But you are in this clearing. There are 2 green leafy trees. There is a dead one. and there is a very large crystalline man sitting cross-legged, hovering in the ground, above the ground.
Squash turns around, slowly dropping his cloak. His face a smear of blood on the right side. And he's staring at the creatures, and he sees that they can't get in, and he reaches for the knife that's missing, realizes he threw it away, and gets the other one out, and waves it in front of himself to see if they will back off.
They do not. If anything, they kind of cluster their heads together, and you just hear that kind of as if they're communicating somehow with one another.
But they can't seem to enter the grove.
And as you're looking at them and you're waving a knife and they just seem to be more interested, you just hear,
"Hello?"
He flips 180 degrees in half a second, holding his knife at full arm's length when he does it. Hello?
"You are Don, are you not?"
And you see this crystalline head just kind of look down at you.
Yes. Yes, I'm how do you know my name?
"I know pretty much everything, young man."
The knife slowly drops, and he's just holding it between his hands and just lying on his feet. What? Who are you?
"I am what is left of Sabras."
The god?
Sabras has become a god. He takes his place on the plains above. I am simply just what remained of his body.
What are those things? Why are they attacking me?
They have come from a rent in the fabric of existence. They have come from the plains of Bellum.
Bellum?
Bellum is where those who wish to fight the fight when they are dead go to. Those who wish to help contain the infernal threat. That is the life that they choose when they are gone.
I'm looking... He looks back behind himself at the lizard creatures, the breathers, and then looks back. I'm looking for an artifact. Do you know where it is?
Of course. You are looking for a chalice.
A chalice? Chalice? Do you know where it is? You said you know where it is. Stupid Squash. Can you tell me where it is?
Of course.
And he gestures to one of the leafy trees.
It was interred many years after I ascended, but it found its way here and I agreed to protect it until the right person came to retrieve it.
I need that chalice to save the world.
No, you don't. You are not supposed to have this, but you are the person that is meant to retrieve it.
I don't understand. I need the chalice. Otherwise me and Dayton can't save the world.
Take an insight check. I just realized you're trying to insight check the remains of a god, but fuck it, why not?
Did you say insight?
Yes, please.
Oh my... Okay, I got an 8. What is with these rolls?
Funny enough, the remains of a god is beyond your comprehension of a 12-year-old.
The chalice is yours for the taking.
And he points again at the tree.
Squash is going to walk towards the tree and inspect it.
Warning, it does fight back.
Ooh. He looks at Severus and then looks back at the tree itself, thinking the tree's going to attack him, and holds up the knife again, both hands at arm's length. Not a fighting position.
As you approach the tree with your dagger drawn, you see that there is a chalice that is being kind of protected by the branches of this tree. It's kind of nestling it in, but you do see it. It is a silver chalice. You see a small silver chalice protected by the branches of the tree. On it, you can see the glint of very, very small diamonds that kind of just like almost pepper the outside of this. And you see embedded in the very top of this, there are 4 emeralds.
It's lying inside the tree or on top of it?
It's kind of being bundled in amongst some of the branches. It's almost if the branches are wrapped around it.
All right.
Say it's like 8 feet in the air.
Ooh, I have to climb to get that, I think.
Yeah. How tall is Squashling at this moment? How tall is Squash?
Oh, Squash is... Drum roll? Thanks. He's 3 feet high when he's grown, when he's a full adult. He is 14 now.
She's 12.
Which is like... He's 12? He's 2 feet tall, dude. He's like 1.822 feet tall. He has not taken his growth spurt yet.
Yes, this thing is still 8 feet in the air.
He's gonna, like, slowly reach out with his hand that's... Oh, no, he's gonna slowly poke the tree with his dagger. Like, just barely touch it.
As you barely touch this, take a perception... No, take a dexterity saving throw.
I can't get low on this. Of course. What? Of course. Natural 20. On the roll, I get +9 to.
Don't you have that cool thing where you don't take any damage if you do a...
Yes, I have evasion. So I should, if I succeed a dexterity saving throw that would have halved the damage, it becomes 0.
All right, you go to you pull out your dagger, you approach the tree, and you kind of like touch the bark, and you just feel like whoosh over the top of your head, and you feel your hair like move slightly. It hadn't accounted for the fact you're only 2 feet tall.
Squash is gonna look up.
The branches are beginning to move. They seem to be like swatting down at you, but for whatever reason, you are either able to dodge out of the way, or you're just too small.
You're just too gosh damn tiny. Okay, like he's gonna back up and put the dagger away.
As you back up, you see the branches themselves begin to settle back into their position.
He's gonna approach again, and bending, he's gonna touch the roots of the tree just with his bare hands, palm of his hand.
It doesn't appear to be moving.
He's gonna get up and reach for a branch or a hold in the tree.
I would like you to make an acrobatics check for me.
I have a +9 to that roll, and I got 11.
You do manage to climb this tree fairly well. You get up to the main supporting branch where you see this little silver chalice. Oh, no, you're 2 feet tall. You see this medium-sized chalice.
It's pretty big, dude. So the thing is like hugging the chalice with a bunch of different branches.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And it's 8 feet down.
Yes, it is.
Squash is going to breathe in real deep.
Mm-hmm.
To be a hero. And then he jumps from the tree and he's just going to grab the chalice and fall 3 times his height to the ground.
I don't know if that's stupid or brave. Okay. I'm going to make you do 2 separate rolls here. One is grabbing hold of the chalice.
All right.
So this accounts for your jumping and grabbing.
All right.
So justify something to me. Justify what you're using, what role you're going for. Give me a cinematic and just then tell me what it is you think is appropriate skill.
All right. So what I'm assuming is that the chalice is not being hugged to the trunk of the tree. It's actually a bit of a way away from the tree, and all the branches come down and are like hugging it.
Yeah.
So Squash has climbed up the trunk of the tree that faces the chalice, and he currently has like a good handhold, like a little, like, I think it's called a wooden knot, which he has his fingers in. And he's gonna bend down, pull himself up, and he's gonna like sprint against the tree and like throw himself out there. and he sees one pretty thick branch, which he thinks would be able to hold his weight. And he's going to try to grab that and pull himself on that to the chalice. And then the point is just to put his fingers in the cup and fall holding on to it.
Okay. I like it. I think you want to argue acrobatics, don't you?
Oh, yes, I want to argue. No, let me do athletics.
All right, athletics it is.
What? No! I want to do acrobatics.
Yeah, go for it.
That's 17.
Okay, excellent. With a 17, you do exactly what you just described. You get your fingers in the cup and you begin to fall. I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. The DC on this is going to be pretty high because you are in quite full momentum and you are 8 feet above the ground. I know the rules are technically for 10 feet, but you are freaking tiny. You are tiny thing and falling at extreme velocity.
I got a 12.
Roll a D6.
Okay, I got a 1.
You drop from the ground and you land a little bit hard. Land a little bit hard on your coccyx, and you kind of get that kind of like, ow. You take 1 point of damage, but you seem to be fine.
Owie. He gets up and he's supporting himself with the cup, which is probably like knee height to him.
Yeah, let's say it's roughly knee height. Why not?
1 foot cup. No, it's a half a foot cup.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God, this is pathetic and hilarious.
I keep calling it a cup. It's a chalice.
It's a chalice. You see that you can see the tree itself as you kind of look up and like, oh, this really hurts. The tree itself, the leaves are beginning to turn brown and begin to drop.
No. He's like runs up to the tree and is like just patting it with his open palm. Like, no, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry, tree.
It's time its purpose is done, young man, young Don. Do not worry.
I didn't mean to hurt the tree. I just wanted the chalice.
And you have it.
But I hurt the tree to get it. That's not right.
It was its time. Its purpose has been served.
I can't save the tree?
No. I cannot save the tree. You cannot save the tree.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your tree.
It is okay. It knew its time, as I know mine, and I will not go crying into my death, nor will that tree.
Squash looks like up at the tree and like just feels bad. He just honestly feels bad.
Aww.
And then walks towards the chalice and picks it up with both hands.
As you pick it up, you see a few words carved in common. You see the words Dark Stalker. Yes, you notice that the phrase words are powerful, they convince, calm and hurt is also carved in common on the bottom of this cup. Chalice. On the bottom of this chalice.
He like turns it over and he reads it out loud. Words are powerful, they convince, calm and hurt. Why is... Okay. Now I need to get this to Daichin. And he looks around at the breathers. Are they still lining the grove?
Oh, yeah. There is a good few of them now. We're probably looking on the other side of... You're close to approaching 2 dozen. You're close to getting to like 20, 25, something like that. And they are on all sides around this clearing.
Oh, no. Okay. Squash takes his backpack off and he takes out on the top of his backpack is there's 2 straps that go over his bedroll. He takes the bedroll out and puts the chalice in instead.
Oh.
And
cool.
then straps it back in and leaves the bedroll behind. Okay, I can do this. No, I can't do this. Wait. Oh no. Severus, you're very smart.
It has been said, yes.
How do I get past all these breathers?
He looks down at you. Take an insight check. I know I'm getting you to insight this thing again, but I know the ridiculousness of this.
Inside. 20!
He looks down at you fairly sadly. And as he looks down at you, you see kind of like a third eye opening above his own, his normal two. And then you see it blink and close again. And he looks down at you sadly as he says,
You will need to run very, very fast. I can momentarily distract them for you. But young Squash, is it as you prefer to be called?
That's what everybody in Empty Shallows calls me.
It is not truly your name yet. You will earn it. You will own it. That day is not today.
Squash kind of just looks confused.
I don't see things indefinite. I see major possibilities. If you run as fast as you are able, you may be able to get out of here.
Okay.
But there is a chance that you will not. The only thing you can do, the only thing that will save your life, is to run.
and then you see his third eye open again and you see a bright flash. But your eyes aren't affected by this, as if he's somehow protected you. You feel it wash over you, this bright, warm light. And as you turn around and look at the breathers, they're all pulling away, blinded momentarily by this bright light. And they kind of like in pain.
Squash immediately understands that this is the distraction that Severus was going to give him, so he starts sprinting and he shouts behind himself, "Thank you, Severus! I'll never forget you!" And then he just runs down the streets.
You hear a slight laughter, and he says,
You will find, when you need it, my tears right here.
and you get a momentary flash in your eyes. Get a vision of a long flower that is blue with red veins. And you see yourself picking them. A much, much older you, a much, much more grizzled you. You also see maybe a very tall, dark figure, maybe a shorter one, maybe one of those weird blue-skinned ones, but red-skinned. You're not really sure. You maybe purple-skinned? And there might be a woman there. You're not sure. It's very cloudy. It's very different. But you see them, or you, picking this flower. And then the vision, as soon as you see it, is gone.
He momentarily tries to focus on what he saw, and he's trying to... and he seems mostly distracted by the idea of himself being that old, being that grown up. And he thinks to himself, "Hero," and keeps running. And he's running towards the rope he dropped.
Okay. He bolts it towards... We see little Squashling bolting it towards this rope. He grabs the rope. You see him pulling himself up, just running and running as fast as he can, just pulling himself with as much effort as he can. Does he leave the rope? The creatures are close behind. They're not right on you yet.
He's gonna pull the rope up. He needs to drop down where the worm was, and he doesn't want to fall again like he did in the tree.
Okay.
So he's gonna pull the rope up. Or he starts like rounding the rope up, sorry.
Yeah, he can round the rope up. You see these creatures like reaching up and clawing at you, but you're a good 4 or 5 feet up. And you're like, yeah, this isn't too bad. And then you realize that some of them are just throwing themselves hard against the wall as others begin to climb on top of them.
Squash, like he's pulled up like a little bit of rope, and he just panics and chucks it at the one that's at the top, and then just starts sprinting, hoping to knock it away.
Okay, as you run forward, like your heavy breathing, the light just like flickers all over the place, the light coming from your pin. And as you bolt your way across, up ahead of you, you can see that the passageway is blocked. You can see that it's blocked. It's not clean. It's as if something has fallen down, as if a portion of it has collapsed, as it's collapsed down because something larger underneath it has been gnawing at it. You run forward, you look left, you look right, and you see a tunnel to your right.
I Squash sprints down that tunnel. He claws at the thing that has fallen down. It's just solid rock, right?
Yeah, it's just so much rock. It's broken. It's small pieces, large pieces. It's collapsed.
Okay, he like claws at it for a second, thinking if he could clear it away, but then he just sprints down the new tunnel.
You sprint down the new tunnel. You see it branching left. You see it branching right. You see it dead ends ahead. Where do you want to go? Left, right?
Left.
Left. You bolt left because it takes you away from the cabin. As you bolt along, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh no! Stay away from me, stupid lizard man! That's a 12.
As you turn this corner, you realise a half second too late that it doesn't continue on. It's just an open hole, and you tumble down. Roll 2d12. Sorry, roll 2d6.
That's a 10.
You lose 10 hit points as you drop almost 20 feet.
Oof. Squash lands trying to put his hands in front of himself, but they just collapse, and the chalice that is now like at the top of his backpack just bonks him straight on the head. There's like a little ringing sound, and he's just groaning on the ground.
As you kind of like pull yourself back up, you realize that the palms of your hands have been like severely skinned. You have those tiny little pebbles embedded in the flesh. As you look around, you realize that you're again in another tunnel, but this is completely perpendicular to the one that was above. You see that on the left-hand side of that, you can see it's fallen in a collapse where clearly this monster, this worm creature has like burrowed its way through. You look right, that seems to be clear.
He's gonna start sprinting right.
As you sprint right, you hear thud, thud, as these creatures are just behind you. And do you look back? You don't have to.
No, he knows what is happening behind him. He knows what is following him. He is sprinting.
Aww.
He is running forward.
As you sprint forward, you realize this tunnel is long. I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Come on! Yes! 21!
A natural 20.
Yes.
As you run, you're secure in the knowledge that there is nothing but death behind you. You sprint forward along this tunnel. It doesn't matter how long this tunnel is, you are going to get to the end of it. And you run, and you run, and you hear these creatures are still just behind you. No matter how fast you run, they are still there. You can hear more and more of them thud, 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 thud as you get further away. But you still hear their claw marks as they kind of wreck it behind you, still at every step you take. And as you look forward, you see there is a turn to the left. And you sprint around it. And as you turn around to the left, you look up and realize that there is a hole just ahead of you that goes up into a different place. And you see that there is a familiar light, a much brighter light than yours.
Oh, he instantly screams out, "Dajin!" as he's gonna try to, and he's gonna try to climb up to the hole.
As you run, you realize the tunnel you're in goes down a little. So this ends up being like 12 feet above you.
Dajin! Help! I've got the chalice, please! Help!
You see Dayton look down over the hole. You see his pendant like dangling around his neck, and you see a much, much brighter light now. You can see ahead of you that this drops down into, if you kept running and turned the corner, you could see that just cutting a corner, the ground drops into darkness. And as you look up, you see Dayton there. You hear some sort of spell being cast, and you see a small rope drop down towards you.
Squash quickly grabs a hold of the rope and starts climbing it.
Dayton puts his hand out to you, and he says, "No." He reaches his hand out towards you, and you feel his head.
Squash reaches.
You feel his hand brush over your head, and you feel him maybe kind of grabbing hold of your bag as if he's going to use that to pull you up, but he doesn't. And you see that as he pulls his hand away, you can see something shiny reflected.
Squash is trying to grab at his hand for help, for support. Dayton, please help me up!
He looks down at you, and you see a glint to his face that you've never seen before. you see his eyes kind of, that were once dark, now kind of glow an ethereal colour. And again, you hear him, something musical coming out of his mouth, and then he shakes his head and looks down at you. And you feel the rope disintegrate beneath your hands, and you fall to the ground. Roll 1d6.
That's 1 damage.
God damn it! You take 1 point of damage as you land, let's say, heavily on your ankle.
Squash, was unprepared for the way the rope just kind of evaporated in his hands, and he just lands just on his right leg and tumbles to the ground. Dayton, the rope gave out. Please, Dayton, help me. They're behind me, the breathers.
He looks down at you, and he smiles, showing all of his teeth, and it's just a wicked glint to his eyes. There's a certain curl, a certain sneer as he looks down at you. And he says,
Well, if they're following you, then I guess that takes care of a loose end for me. Squash. I can't think of a more fitting, pathetic name for you.
And with that, he turns and walks away. The bright light disappears, and you hear that as these creatures are clawing along the rock.
No, please, come back. I promise I won't get in your way. Dayton, please. I'll fight them.
You hear...
Oh, what an idiot.
And then the light on your pin goes out. And you feel many, many claws and many teeth bite into your flesh.
Oh, it's you again. Yes, I'm Dachin, but some of you might recognize the voice of one David Alt, but we don't talk about him. If you enjoyed this little dalliance with the die, then please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. I accept only 5 stars, thank you very much. Check out the Twitter at TLDpod and find the network's website at thespark.network. Yes, the best way is to tell your friends about The Lucky Die, in fact, about any podcast that you're particularly interested in. You know, I'm interested myself in making my own podcast, but one doesn't want to blow one's own trumpet, now does one? If you're interested in hearing more from the horror realm, then there's the White Vault, which is very claustrophobic and cold. I much prefer to settle for a nice cup of tea myself. And the No Sleep podcast, which has over 300 hours of content for you to freeze your very blood with, if that's the sort of thing you like. If you're wanting more general podcasting, then I can absolutely recommend the Sonic Society, which every week showcases a new and interesting part of the modern audio theatre world. Plenty to do. Now get on and do it. Come on, chop chop. The world won't wait for you. It'll wait for me. But there we go. Oh, well.
The Spark Network. Imagine what your idea can do.